Well, hey everybody, I'm John here at Lake Erie Chestnuts, working in the orchard today. Mid-September, maples are just turning colors, and I'm working on this tree. I talked about this tree the other day that had a little love from a buck rubbing its antlers, and I can see it's rubbed even more in the 4 days since I've been here. So I brought a wire cage here, and I'm going to put this around. This is about 3 feet worth of cage. It equals to be about a 12-foot circle. So I'm going to put that on here. While I'm at it, I'm using I finally figured out, I think, the system for trying to reduce wind noise. So if you think the sound sounds better, let me know. So I'm just going to fit this around. This gives it until it gets to a diameter of 12 inches before we'll have to worry about taking it off. And I cut these with wire pliers and makes it very easy. Leave the tag end as I cut one side so that I can use that wire to help it make a firm circle. And then I just work the existing stake I had. This was from a planter tree tube. And just kind of smash it so it's a good circle. Has a little bit of a lean from the tube, so it's a little exaggerated. Maybe I'll just use a tree tie or a zip tie, heavy duty releasable zip tie. Let's see what that looks like once I zip tie it. Now that's rubbing a little. Maybe we'll make it a little oblong so that it's not rubbing at the top here. So now we got this wire cage here. Hopefully those bucks who are starting to probably use this as a community rub move on to something else. This tree can't really catch a break. Its top snapped out with that early heavy snow last fall. Got a freeze this winter, late spring. Now the bucks are giving it some love. Nice solid tree otherwise though. Should bounce back and do well. Just a few days ago we were out here, no color in the trees. Now you're really starting to see the orange. This tree, about a 20-foot tall tree, beautiful tree, tight as can be, very tight. No movement on that tube. Starting to split. You can see that starting to split right down there. I think I'm going to release this one and put a cage on it. No way to get this off other than cutting. Don't really have to worry about wasps when the tree's taking up the whole tube. So that was our tree topper that we used to get it up above deer browse height. That was when it was a spindly little tree. After these tubes have been out here for 6 or 7 years, you're really at the peak. Oh, there are plenty of wasps there. Plenty of wasps. Let's have them move along. Pulled a strip there. A little nervous to come in on there. Maybe I'll let you see them. maybe right before I get stung. See him right there, crawling back behind there. Not a big fan of them. Well, anyway, the good news is when I pulled that tube, a big strip came off. So I'm just going to reach up there and grab it. And then maybe I'll let it sit for a little bit. And let the wasp move along. It's a little chilly, so maybe that's keeping them from going after me. Now, I don't know if you can perceive that there's a branch. I've tried to get everything to branch at 6 foot or higher, but that branch starts at 1.5 feet. Now, unless I was physically looking down every tube, I would never know that that branch was there. But I'm not going to let that branch stay there. I don't want any, I really want it to be a tree, not a multi-stemmed. I want the single stem, even though Chinese chestnuts don't mind, and some of them seem to really like having multiple stems. I want single stemmed up to 6 foot. So I have a tool just for that. And since I'm just very excited about getting stung, right at the crotch is where those stinging looking things are existing. But there's no burrs on that branch. And I want all the growth to be up high. So, sucks to amputate limbs of a tree, but when you know it's for what you're seeking for your tree, you may want poly-stemmed trees for yours, but I want single stem up to 6 foot. And we've talked, a lot of people talked about the tractor knocking off a branch of my last video, or one of the last videos when I'm mowing. A zero turn, I do believe, is in my future. My only issue is there's some pretty good ant hills out here. I'm either going to have to treat the ant hills, but they get to be about that tall, and hitting that with a zero turn could be interesting as opposed to with a brush hog. So the trees, I'd say 6 inches diameter at the base. I trimmed that off as best I could. Well, I've given it a couple minutes. There's still some wasps crawling around. I don't know if it's wise or not, but I want this cage on there. And here's some decision making that I have to make. So this is a chestnut tree that had good genetics. I don't remember exactly which one, but I was excited to replant these. But the tube blew off early this spring, and of course life happens and I don't get it covered up. So it's stump sprouting. I don't see any blight above it. You can see a deer's rubbed on it. And of course every time it starts growing, the deer eat it because it's right next to the cornfield. Right over here. So the question is, do I dig that up and put a new fresh tree there? Or chestnut trees, which I know can grow back vigorously from a stump sprout, put a cage around it, which will catch less wind, and see what happens over the next year. So I have 2 of these right next to each other. You can see that one down there has been rubbed on by a buck, and the tube is gone. And I'm going to cage them, and we'll see what happens over the next year, and I'll follow up on that over time. When you do cages, you don't need near as hefty of a stake because there's just way less wind resistance. The wind can just flow through the cage. Now, cages are not going to be the complete antidote against deer rubbing. They'll lift these up and off. There's definitely potential, but they definitely avoid them compared to tree tubes. So you can just set that right over. Now this tree can now do its hardening off on those low-lying little stump sprouts. They can harden off, get ready for the winter. And next spring, this thing has 2-year-old roots, 3-year-old maybe. I forget exactly which year, if it was last spring or the spring before. And that tree can really take off. I mean, it could be 6 foot next year. I think this is a good decision, and it's worth the experiment anyway. We're trying to learn, right? If it doesn't work, then next time I know this is a waste of time. Just dig them up and do something else. Similar but different. Big tall tree, looks great, happy, but it's not alive. Starting to grow a little fungus here. Starts to get broken down. But you look down here and it's alive. Nice stump sprouts starting to grow, getting eaten off. You can see the tops here eaten off. Everything's been just nudged off. So what happened to this tree? Well, it's not a mystery. First of all, you can see the tree tubes torn up. And if you look right here, that is from a deer rubbing its antlers. So it got its antlers there and rubbed off enough cambium, and that plus, you know, winter, whatever else happens, was enough to kill it off. So I'm going to remove the tube and I'm going to cage this tree. First I'll check, make sure there's no significant wasp waiting to injure me. I'll be able to remove this tube topper in case I want to use it again. Pull up this other parts of the tube. You can see it used to be all the way up here, and that buck rubbing just destroyed it. Put my cage together, do it again just like I have all the others. The tube, you're going to catch significant wind. And as you've experienced with my audio in the past, I got new audio. See my little microphone? Hopefully this is helping a lot with the wind because it is plenty gusty today. Hopefully it's recording. But with that wind that we have here, if you don't have a deep stake with tree tubes, you will definitely catch more wind and have tubes blow off. You see, it takes 5-10 minutes to get a new stake in the ground. And the wire cage, if you have them pre-cut, again, they're about, this is 2x4 welded wire fence, red brand, bought from Tractor Supply. You can get it on sale for 95 to 100 bucks in my area. You buy it, you count 18 windows, and you get 36 inches, and it makes about a 12-inch circle. So that's how I'm building these. I wanted to provide an update on some trees that I planted from James Nave. He sent me these seeds very nicely to me, and I planted them in 2020. And I'm going to go down the line and show the update. This is Zigo. This is Patterson. This is another Patterson. This is a Miller's Hope. This is a Luvol's Monster. I'm not sure it's alive. This is my best tree. This is a Patterson. You know, all of these are seedlings, obviously. This is another Luvol's Monster. Looks like it's alive and dead in there. Another Luvol's, who's alive and dead down in the bottom. And Miller's Hope. And then coming over here, I'm going to start with this one. This is a Maraval. Maraval, I'll put the names here as I do this. This is a Yixian Large. Looking very nice. About 8 foot tall. This is an Ace. Very vertical growth. Hasn't done any side branching yet. This is a Ching. Looks alive and dead in that tube. a Yixian Large. I got to straighten that tube up. It looks alive in there. This is another Miller's Hope. And this one looks like it's outside the tube and being allowed to grow back. That is a Pandora. And this is a Marigoule. So that's how they're doing. They're all going to get put, or many of them are going to get put in cages today. I don't think I have enough cages for all of them, but I'm going to put them in cages. These were planted more as an experiment to see, you know, some of these may not have the cold hardiness. Some may not have the blight resistance, but they're just a kind of an experiment to see how they do. You can see what happens to trees inside tubes. They're pretty bendy, but they stiffen up pretty quick once they're in a cage. So, you know, it's a timeless debate. I don't know if you'll ever be able to come down firmly on one side or the other of tubes versus cages. I love tubes for the ease and the quickness and the forced upward growth, but the tree is spindly when it comes out, and you see a lot of my trees have that lean, and then they gradually start straightening up once they're out of the tube. You definitely get robust growth once you have them in cages, but the cages just take way more time. I would already have the tube on and moved on and forgot about this tree if I was doing tubes, and this doesn't take into account the amount of time I spent prepping, getting the cage cut and ready for this phase. I wanted to do this now, mid-September, so that we can let the tree really start hardening off in these cool nights, rather than yanking the tube off one day or 2 weeks or 1 week before the frost. I don't want that. I want the tree to be getting the increased signaling that a tree that's getting the free range of air, not that microclimate of the tube. Well, the trees are out of their tubes, into cages. Let me know if you think the audio sounds better using the remote microphones. I bought these a year ago, couldn't ever figure out the wiring for the iPhone, which I carry way more than my better camcorder. It's way less work. But it's a beautiful day here at the orchard. Just fantastic. I'm gonna load up the truck, go feed the fish. Deer season starts in 2 weeks. We're gonna start minimizing our time here on the farm. Hope you enjoyed this episode. Harvest is around the corner.